Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of your sources and really distill them down to the core insights for you. Today, we're diving into something super practical. It often flies under the radar, but it's a powerful layer in your financial safety net. We're talking about how your workplace benefits can actually fortify your emergency preparedness plan. We all focus on that cash emergency fund, right? Saving up 3-6 months. But what if I told you there's a whole other arsenal of financial lifelines already there at your fingertips, often from your employer, just waiting? We're talking about going way beyond just having cash in the bank.
And that's precisely it. Our sources really hammer this home. These aren't just, nice little perks. They're crucial components that should strategically complement your personal savings. Think of them almost like additional safety nets, designed to stop a small problem from becoming a financial catastrophe. We'll be exploring how all these different resources, insurance, but also some newer savings ideas, how they fit together into a real strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Starting with the big one, the thing most people think of with benefits insurance. But not just any insurance. We're talking the kind that guards against those really common, financially devastating emergencies. First up, health insurance.
Yeah, a critical starting point, medical issues. They're always cited as a huge source of financial stress, even if you have coverage. And our sources really emphasize it's not just having the insurance, it's understanding where the immediate financial hits can come from, those out-of-pocket costs, deductibles, co-pays.
Exactly. That's a key point from the research. The need to maybe even earmark money within your emergency fund specifically for those medical costs. Like if your deductible is, say, $2,000, having that amount kind of set aside mentally or even physically in another account. It means a trip to the ER doesn't instantly drain your entire safety net, the one you save for job loss or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And that's where something like a health savings account, an HSA, really comes into its own. It's more than just saving. It's like a dedicated healthcare emergency fund. You put money in pre-tax, and you take it out tax-free for those qualified medical things. It basically shields your main emergency fund,
Yeah.
Stops it getting raided just because you had a medical bill.
Right. That idea of the HSA as a strategic buffer, it's powerful. We saw that example, didn't we? Family whose kid broke an arm. After the insurance paid its part, the rest of the bills, pretty significant ones, they were all covered by the HSA. And their main emergency fund, the one for non-medical stuff, totally untouched. That's planning.
It really is. It's about building in that resilience. HSAs shift you from being reactive, like, oh no, a bill, to being proactive. You got this dedicated tax-advantaged pot of money ready to go.
Okay, so that covers the direct medical side. But what about when the emergency is? You just can't work, can't earn an income at all. That brings us to disability insurance. And honestly, our sources suggest this is massively overlooked. Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I think partly it's because we focus on physical things, right? Our house, our car. But our ability to earn an income, that's arguably our biggest asset. Losing it, even for a while, can be way more devastating financially than, say, a car breaking down. And the stats are kind of scary. Our sources say about 1 in 4 of today's 20-year-olds will likely face a disability before they retire that stops them working for a significant time. 1 in 4. Yet, over half of Americans don't have disability coverage beyond maybe Social Security. It's the sort of invisible risk people think won't happen to them.
Yeah, that it won't happen to me thing is dangerous. Because the standard emergency fund maybe covers a few months, right? But if you're out for 6 months, a year, longer, that fund's gone fast. Disability insurance, though, it replaces a chunk of your lost income, often, 60-70% of your salary. And lots of employers offer short-term and long-term disability, STD and LTD, often at really reasonable group rates, sometimes just like 1-3% of your income because it's subsidized.
It's absolutely critical income protection. Think about it. A family relies on one main income. That person gets seriously hurt, can't work for half a year. If they have that LTD policy kicking in, replacing maybe 2/3 of their pay, and their emergency fund maybe covers the rest, the gap. That family can stay afloat financially. Without it, they could be looking at serious debt, maybe even bankruptcy. It just completely torpedoes their whole financial plan.
And then there's the ultimate what if, right? Life insurance. This one isn't for your emergency per se. It's for your loved ones if the worst happens. Creates an emergency fund for them. How does that long-term safety net really work differently than, say, short-term savings?
That's the key difference, isn't it? Your personal emergency fund handles immediate crises. The boiler breaks, you lose your job for a bit. Life insurance. That's about securing financial stability for the people who depend on you, potentially for years, maybe even decades after you're gone. It extends your planning beyond your own life. It covers the big immediate costs, funeral, debts, but crucially, it replaces your income for a significant stretch, so your family can keep paying the mortgage, cover living costs, adjust without immediate financial panic.
Right. The sources often mention that guideline, like 7 to 10 times your annual salary. That sounds like a lot. But we saw that example, the spouse with a policy worth 10 times his salary if something happened. That payout would basically fund the family's life for years, like you said, an emergency fund on steroids.
But okay, for someone maybe starting out, struggling to build even a basic cash fund, how do they balance that immediate need with this long-term protection? It's a fair question, a common challenge, but it really comes back to layering. If you have people depending on your income, even getting that basic employer-provided policies, often it's free, maybe 1x your salary, that's your foundation, it's layer one. Then, as your income grows, as your responsibilities grow, you build on it. Maybe add supplemental coverage through work or private term policy. It's recognizing that providing that future security for your family, it's a core part of being prepared, not just an optional add-on. It stops an unimaginable emotional loss from also becoming an immediate, devastating financial crisis.
Okay, so we've covered those big three insurance layers. Health, disability, life, and foundational stuff. But the research digs deeper, right? There are other safety nets, maybe less obvious ones, tied to your job. Let's shift gears to maybe the most common financial shock people face, losing a job.
Yes, absolutely. And while it's not technically an employer benefit, unemployment insurance is a critical government safety net that's directly tied to your employment. And just knowing how to access it and doing it quickly is almost as important as having savings in the bank.
Definitely. If you lose your job and it wasn't your fault, you're probably eligible for state unemployment benefits. Our sources stress this. It typically replaces, maybe 40–50% of your wages for a set time, often up to 26 weeks, though it varies state by state. It's not meant to make you whole, but it's a temporary income stream, a bridge.
And that's how it strategically helps your personal savings last longer. So if your usual take-home was, say, $4,000 a month and unemployment gives you $2,000, your emergency fund only has to make up the other $2,000 to keep your budget intact while you look for work. It makes your savings go potentially twice as far. But the key insight is speed. You usually have to wait a week, so file immediately. Don't delay.
Okay, now for something we really hope to avoid, but we need to know it exists as, like, a final backstop. Tapping retirement plans, we all know the rule, right? Build the emergency fund specifically so you don't raid your 401k or IRA. Because taxes, penalties, it hurts.
That's absolutely right. Retirement accounts are for the long haul, for future you. Dipping into them early means you lose out on potential growth. Plus, you often get hit with taxes and that nasty 10% penalty. It can significantly reduce what you actually get. It really should be a break glass in case of emergency scenario, not plan A, B, or even C.
There's a big shift happening here, isn't there? Our sources have been all over this, the Secure A 2.0 Act. Starting in 2024, it allows a special penalty-free emergency withdrawal, up to $1,000 a year from your retirement plan for certain urgent needs. How big a deal is this, really? And what are the catches?
It is a significant development. It offers a lifeline for some folks in a really tight spot without that immediate 10% penalty hit. But yeah, there are definitely caveats, as you said, big ones. It's only one such withdrawal per year, and you can't take another one in the following 2 years unless you pay back the first one. So you can't just keep doing it. Plus, while it avoids the penalty, the money you take out is still generally treated as taxable income, and fundamentally, you're still taking money out that could have been growing for your retirement. So yeah, still very much a last resort.
Good points. And the research backed that up. Needing to raid retirement often means the emergency fund just wasn't big enough in the first place. There was that study, right? Workers without enough emergency savings were something like 13 times more likely to take hardship withdrawals. That just tanks your long-term goals.
Exactly, which raises the question, how can employers help people avoid getting to that point? And the good news, also related to Secure 2.0, is the rise of workplace emergency savings accounts, or ESAs. Some 401k plans are now offering these, basically like a sidecar account linked to your retirement plan. You can save usually up to around $2,500 on an after-tax basis, and the key is you can access that money for emergencies anytime, easily, with no penalties.
And here's the kicker. Some employers are actually starting to match contributions to these ESAs. I mean, that's basically free money specifically to build your short-term safety net. If your employer offers that, you could absolutely jump on it. It's a huge boost.
It really is. It's a fantastic development because it encourages saving in the right place for emergencies, somewhere accessible, penalty-free. It helps protect that all-important retirement nest egg. It's a much smarter overall strategy, a real win-win.
Okay, one last area before we tie it all together. Let's talk about support systems that aren't purely about cash, but can still be total lifesavers in a crisis. Things like employee assistance programs, EAPs, and other kinds of employer support.
Yes, and this really speaks to that holistic view of preparedness we mentioned. It's not just about the dollars and cents. It's also about navigating the stress, the practical problems, the emotional side of a crisis. And EAPs, those confidential counseling and referral services that many companies offer for free, they are such a valuable and often really underused resource.
Totally. They can help with so much. Financial stress counseling, budgeting help, debt management advice, even connecting you with community resources. And the key thing is, they're confidential. Using your EAP isn't going to get back to your boss or affect your job. Plus, they often help with mental health support, maybe legal referrals, substance abuse help, all things that, if unaddressed, can definitely worsen financial problems.
And beyond formal EAPs, don't forget other potential supports. Some larger places might have an employee relief fund. Actual grants for employees hit by disaster, like a house fire or something truly catastrophic. Or things like leave donation programs where coworkers can give their unused vacation time to someone in crisis. Or maybe your company lets you cash out some of your own unused leave if you're in a serious financial bind.
Even just flexible work options can be huge, right? That's a non-cash benefit, but if a crisis hits, maybe you need to care for a sick relative, being able to work remotely for a bit, or adjust your hours. That can save you childcare costs, or transportation costs, or just help you keep some income flowing when maybe you'd otherwise have to take unpaid leave entirely. These practical things matter. Okay, so let's bring it all home. What does this actually mean for you listening right now? It means thinking bigger than just your savings account. It's about layering your defenses, making sure you've got the right insurance, health, disability, life dialed in to cushion those big personal hits. Knowing unemployment is there if needed and how to get it rolling fast. Understanding the retirement account options like that Secure 2.0 withdrawal, but keeping them as a true last resort. And jumping on any employer programs that help you save for emergencies, like those ESAs, especially if there's a match. And yeah, remembering those EAP folks are there to help you manage the stress and the planning side too.
It really is about building those multiple layers of resilience. Let's use that scenario from the sources to illustrate. Picture that family of four, and bam, they get hit with a double whammy. One parent gets seriously injured, out of work for months. Then, like a month later, one of the kids needs sudden surgery. Nightmare stuff. Could financially ruin a lot of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely terrifying. But in the example, their planning kicked in. The injured parents' short-term disability insurance started replacing some income. Their main emergency fund covered the mortgage and bills during that initial waiting period. Health insurance handled the bulk of the surgery costs, but the HSA they'd been funding, that covered the deductible and copays without touching their main savings. The other parent, who had to stop part-time work to manage everything, filed for unemployment, got a little income bridge there, and they even used the EAP, talked to a financial counselor through work to help them rejig their budget through the crisis.
See? It's a perfect illustration because they had multiple layers working together: personal savings, plus insurance, plus those workplace benefits. That family navigated the storm. They didn't end up deep in debt or facing financial ruin. It was a massive bump in the road, for sure, but not a complete crash. And that really leads to the question for everyone listening. How many layers of protection do you actually have? Are they all in place?
Wow, yeah. That's a powerful takeaway, and definitely a lot to think about. This deep dive into workplace benefits and emergency preparedness, it really shows financial readiness is so much more than, batteries and bottled water. Hopefully you've got a clearer picture now of how everything your employer offers, from insurance to maybe those new savings accounts, can seriously cushion life's blows, maybe even prevent a disaster.
Yep.
It's about knowing what's available and being proactive.
And maybe my final thought for you to chew on is this. Preparedness isn't just piling up cash. It's about strategically building that multi-layered buffer. So, thinking about all the potential safety nets we've talked about today, are you really making the most of all of them? Especially the ones right there offered through your job. Because honestly, in knowing what you have and knowing how to use it when you need it, that might be just as important, maybe even more important, than the exact dollar amount in your savings account.
Fantastic point to end on. Really drives it home. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay safe out there, stay prepared, and we'll catch you next time.